So our final panellist is Maddie Bradden. I've got down here that Maddie is an energetic young woman. Mandrop might give you a run for your money after that. Maddie has dedicated a lot of her life to climate justice and building community connectedness. She kind of approaches things from the sense that we all share common experiences and skills that unite us in the face of adversity. Maddie works part-time with Lock the Gate and was part of the group of people that helped establish Lismore Helping Hands after the floods there in 2017. So thank you, Maddie.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, how am I meant to follow that? Everything that you just said, that's what, same. I would just first like to acknowledge the Biripi and Worimi people whose land that we gather on today, and recognise that we would not be at Shit Creek if colonisation didn't happen. And everything that's happened in the last 200 years, it's devastating. I was born on Wiradjuri country in Orange, and I now live on Widjabul-Wyabul land in the Bundjalung Nation up in Lismore. Thank you. And a nod to everyone else from the Northern Rivers who's down here as well. Also just want to acknowledge the incredible work that this community has done to respond to the threat of gas and coal. I cannot even believe that you've had both of those things here. Our region responded to the threat of invasive gas fields, and that was devastating and a big effort. And where I am now and the leadership that I've been able to develop and the nurturing that I have had has largely been cushioned by the people involved in our community who responded to that gas threat. And I owe a big chunk of my resilience and my drive to my community. I don't feel very energetic right now, is the truth, and I can't believe I put that in my bio. I usually am quite energetic, but truthfully at the moment, I am feeling pretty flat and pretty like I need to go out in the bush for a week and have some regeneration, a rest, and then to get back into it. But once I see younger people, younger than me, I'm 24 now, I've been doing this stuff since I was 17. And frankly, I'm a little bit exhausted. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm incredibly energized by even younger people and anyone of any age that is stepping up to this challenge that we're seeing right now. We all have skills to add in any way, and I guess one of the things that I really want people to think about is what skills you have, how can you identify the skills in other people around you, how can you capture and harness that to create good in your community, whether it's at a really micro local scale or a regional scale or at the state level, wherever it is, and whatever jobs and roles you play in your community, you can influence them and create change. And I want to share one example of that. I am fortunate to get to spend half my time with an incredible organisation like Lock the Gate, who does grassroots change making across Australia, addressing coal and gas and supporting communities to do that. And half of my time in the research world looking at how climate-related disasters affect people. And the flood that happened in Lismore in 2017 was so crazy, and it was terrible and disastrous, but at the same time, it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've had the pleasure of being a part of. And the way that our community rallied together and responded to that disaster was just phenomenal. It's such a massive story, but it's now become part of my identity and added to what I can offer in the climate space, in the change-making space, and it helped me understand the social and environmental overlap and how social justice and environmental justice are absolutely linked and we cannot separate the two. And so I think if I'm thinking about what we want to demand, I really demand that we make spaces as diverse and inclusive as possible, and that we're addressing underlying social issues at the same time as trying to solve things like climate change, environmental degradation. And And pretty much most things would be solved if we just gave ownership and land back to Aboriginal people. and started to work in conjunction with our surroundings and with nature and realise that we're a part of it, not against it. Concrete is just concrete. So there's so much that can be said. I was trying to think about what I could say to an audience of people who kind of all think on a similar wavelength. I am absolutely done with the problems and hearing statistics about how stuffed everything is. I can't do it. I can't even watch the news anymore, frankly. So I'm all about solutions. And I just think we need to be as connected as we possibly can. Our generation, I think, have heaps of problems ahead of us, but we also have heaps of solutions. And something that I've started to do myself, I've realised that we're all on our phones a lot, and social media and technology, which is both a gift and a curse. And so lately I'm trying to pick up the phone, get face to face with people as much as I can, and continue to build connection and relationships at a time where we are more individualistic, more closed off from each other, more depressed and anxious than we've ever been. And I'm not buying any of that. I think we need to talk to each other, need to ask hard questions, get outside of our bubbles. Something that I'm also fortunate to have in my background is that I'm actually part of a pretty conservative family of like farming types, people who don't believe everything I have to say. And that actually has made me stronger because now I can go have conversations with people who are different to me. And that is an incredibly important thing. And so if there's one thing I could encourage everyone in this room to do, it's, go and make friends with someone who has the polar opposite view to you. Find a way to find and build common ground with those people, because it's doing that is going to help solve the issues of this time. I feel incredibly optimistic coming down here this weekend. I actually really needed this at a time where the coalition government just got back in, and I will be nearly 30 next time, almost 30, next time I can vote in New South Wales for a different vision. And that's terrifying. And I think, and everyone in this room, if you're not already a young person, you were a young person, and you probably thought things would change. So recognising, and Linda Gill came up to me this morning when I arrived and gave me the biggest hug ever. I have you on Facebook. Anyone that's got me on there can see me ranting about how stuffed things are sometimes. Mostly it's optimism, but I thank you, Linda, because it is a marathon and I do need to find tools to deal with the world around me. Thank you. Yeah, so I just want to acknowledge the contribution. It is a lifelong battle creating change, and there will be different times where you really feel like, laying in bed and not doing anything. And we have to give ourselves time and space to heal while we're addressing these problems. So, yeah, I don't know, there's so much. I just wanted one more shout out to the people who have participated in the Women in Environmental Leadership Program. Y'all are legends. I was part of that, and it's really cool to see the things you can be involved in and the relationships you make along the way when you're creating the change you want to see in the world, and then the flow-on effect of keeping connected to each other. And also to acknowledge that I'm pretty sure a lot of this was put on by a committee made up of mostly women, legends. And so finally, I don't know how much time I have, what I've seen with the climate strike as a slightly older young person has been incredibly inspiring. In Lismore, there were 1,500 young people and community members that came together to strike, and it was really cool to have the role as a marshal, where I was able to kind of step back but play a supportive role and just be there for the school kids in that way. And my workplace, where I'm involved in the research, we actually, because I'm in a supportive work environment, thank goodness, we wrote a letter of support to the strikers, and that felt like an incredibly powerful way to support young people, and I just think we need to keep having those conversations, keep the momentum alive, and smash it. Thank you.